Trump arrived in Africa expecting the same deference he once commanded in the White House. He thought people would bow, treat him as the most powerful man on earth. But he was wrong. Terribly wrong. When he ordered a Ghanaian soldier to salute him, he had no idea how the world would respond. Cameras captured the moment, and it became the day Africa found its voice. A day when dignity stood taller than power. What you're about to hear isn't fiction. It's the exact moment when arrogance met resistance and resistance won. The story of how one soldier, without moving a muscle, brought decades of entitlement crashing down. The moment Africa stopped asking permission to exist and began demanding respect. Get ready to witness the day Donald Trump learned there are places where his name means nothing, where his wealth cannot buy submission, and where human dignity outweighs political power. It was a Tuesday afternoon in Accra, Ghana. The sky was heavy with clouds over Kotoka International Airport. Delegations gathered, cameras rolled, flags of both nations waved. But beneath the formal protocol was a tension, an unspoken defiance. Foreign Minister Kofi Asante, Oxford-educated yet rooted in Ghana's soil, adjusted his glasses and prepared himself. He knew this wasn't just a visit from a former U.S. president, it was a test of how far Africa had come. Trump's private jet gleamed under the lights as he descended, red tie straight, smile calculated for the cameras. His entourage of bodyguards and advisors radiated arrogance. But among the Ghanaian officials, one figure stood apart, Captain Kojo Mensah. Tall, proud, dressed in an immaculate uniform, Mensah carried more than military rank. He carried the weight of his ancestors. His great-grandfather had fought the British, his grandfather independence wars, his father nation-building. To him, the uniform wasn't clothing. It was a legacy. Trump noticed him and instead of offering respect, barked an order. "Hey, salute me." Time froze. A heavy silence fell over the runway. Mensah didn't move. His eyes stayed firm, not in defiance but in dignity, like a wall that had seen empires rise and fall. The cameras caught every second. The world held its breath. Then Minister Asante stepped forward. Calm, deliberate. His voice cut through the silence. "Here, Mr. Trump, you're not in charge." The words echoed across the tarmac, carrying centuries of struggle, pride, and independence. Trump blinked, stunned. He wasn't used to resistance. Not in America. Not anywhere. But here in Ghana, a soldier's silence and a minister's words reminded him, and the world, that respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned. Before the United States even existed, our kingdoms were trading gold while your ancestors lived in straw huts. The words hit like a precision strike. Trump hadn't expected a history lesson, least of all from an official he considered beneath him. The American delegation shifted uneasily. Trump's security chief, Marcus Sullivan, a burly ex-Marine in a black suit, leaned in. His instincts told him the tension was dangerous. "Sir," he whispered, "we should stick to protocol. This is getting out of control." But Trump was Trump. His pride wouldn't allow him to be challenged. He had built his image on intimidation, on making others feel small so he could feel big. Now his face flushed red, jaw tightening in that familiar way before his worst outbursts. "You know what?" he said, raising his voice so it echoed across the airport. "Maybe you should remember how much aid the United States gives countries like yours. Think about what would happen if that aid disappeared." A murmur of outrage swept through the Ghanaian officials. Asante's smile vanished. His tone turned sharp, cutting through the air. "Mr. Trump, if you came here to threaten us, you came to the wrong country and the wrong era. Ghana is not a beggar. We are partners, not subjects. And if you think economic blackmail will work, you are very wrong." He stepped closer, radiating authority. "Let me remind you, Mr. Trump, Ghana has the second largest economy in West Africa. We are the continent's second largest gold producer. We have oil, natural gas, and trade with China, India, and Europe. The United States needs us as much as we need you." Trump tried to interrupt, but Asante pressed on. "We survived centuries of slavery, decades of colonialism, and years of dictatorship. We built our democracy with blood, sweat, and tears. Do you think a grumpy businessman can make us bow?" The crowd grew silent as Captain Mensah stood like a statue, a symbol of African resistance. Cameras focused on him, Trump noticed, and his frustration boiled over. "What's wrong with him?" Trump sneered. "Doesn't he speak English?" Asante's reply was icy. "Captain Mensah speaks English, French, Arabic, and 4 local languages. He holds master's degrees from Ghana and London. Frankly, he's more educated than many of your advisors," Trump stammered. "Then why doesn't he speak?" "Because," Asante said, his smile cold, "he has nothing to say to you." His silence is his answer. Online, the moment exploded. Hashtags like Tabri Mensah stands and Ghana dignity trended worldwide. Photos of Mensah's stoic figure spread across Instagram. African leaders voiced support. From Nigeria's Bola Tinubu to South Africa's ANC, the message was the same. Captain Mensah embodied Africa's dignity. Trump supporters in the U.S. defended him, but many Americans praised Ghana's stance. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, "Maybe if we treated Africa as a partner, we'd earn more respect." Bernie Sanders added, "Dignity has no borders." Across Africa, millions felt pride. "Today we are all Mensah," a Ugandan student wrote. "Finally, someone told the West we are not their servants," said a Nigerian doctor. For Ghanaians, the symbolism was powerful. From the slave castles of Cape Coast to the scars of colonialism, this moment felt like history reversing itself. Back in Accra, crowds gathered around TVs and phones. Markets paused, schools stopped classes. An 83-year-old woman, tears in her eyes, told reporters, "All my life I have seen Africa humiliated. Today I saw a Ghanaian soldier stand tall before the most powerful man in the world. I can die in peace." Trump, sensing the tide against him, lashed out again. "Maybe the U.S. should cut aid to Ghana. Maybe we should remind you of your place." This silence was different, heavy, dangerous. Asante's voice dropped but carried a power that shook the room. "Mr. Trump, you just made a colossal mistake. You've revealed your true face to the world. For you, Africa is still a colony. But hear me well. Ghana does not depend on your charity. Our doctors build hospitals here. Our engineers raise cities here. Our scientists innovate here. And when America turns its back, China, India, and Europe step in." Trump shouted, "You can't talk to me like this. I'm Donald Trump, you're nobody." Asante finally raised his voice, his words like a lion's roar. "Here, you are nothing but an arrogant tourist who has forgotten his manners." The airport fell, silent as cameras captured the defining moment. African diplomacy, transforming into African dignity. The chief of the general staff approached slowly. A 60-year-old veteran, his body bore scars that told stories of courage and sacrifice. His presence was commanding, his authority unquestioned. "Mr. Trump," he said in a grave voice, "it would be wise to reconsider your attitude. You are in Ghana, not the United States. Here threats do not work." Trump, now surrounded by officials whose smiles had faded, realized he had gone too far. His security team inched closer, gauging the tension. Marcus Sullivan, his security chief, whispered urgently, "Sir, we have to go now." But Trump, his pride wounded, refused to yield. In a last attempt to reassert control, he snapped at Mensah. "You, soldier, I order you to salute me." Silence followed. Mensah, still as stone, turned his head toward Trump. Their eyes locked, and in that gaze lay centuries of resistance, dignity and unbroken strength. When he spoke, his voice was deep and resolute. "Mr. Trump, I do not take orders from you. I serve Ghana, Africa, and the dignity of my people. You may shout, threaten, or mock, but you will not break me, nor my country, nor my continent." The words fell like hammer blows. For the first time, Trump stood speechless before a man unmoved by wealth or power. This was more than a confrontation. It was a turning point. Africa was finding its voice, a voice echoing with the strength of ancestors who had fought for freedom. Mensah pressed on. "For centuries, men like you have come here believing us inferior, stealing our resources, enslaving our people, treating us like children needing civilization. But we are the heirs of Egypt's pharaohs, Ethiopia's emperors, Mali's kings, descendants of mathematicians who invented geometry, architects who built pyramids, philosophers who taught Greece. We traded with Asia when Europe was in the Dark Ages. We built universities while London was a swamp. We governed ourselves when Washington was still a forest." Trump tried to interrupt, but Mensah's words cut sharper than any blade. "Respect is earned, not demanded. And you, Mr. Trump, have earned none." The speech reverberated across the globe. Universities quoted Mensa. African parliaments praised him. In South Africa, the Mandela Foundation compared the moment to resistance against apartheid. In Kenya, President William Ruto declared, "Africa stands tall with dignity intact." Trump attempted damage control, forcing a smile. "This is just a misunderstanding. I respect Ghana, I respect Africa." Asante stepped forward, his voice thunderous. "Enough lies. Enough manipulation. The world has seen your true face. You came expecting an Africa that bowed before Western power, that Africa died with independence. What you see today is a continent that negotiates as an equal, and if that makes you uncomfortable, perhaps Africa is not the place for you." Cornered, Trump fell back on threats. "This is unfair. I came in peace and you attack me. There will be consequences, serious consequences." But his words rang hollow. He was no longer the man who could cripple nations with sanctions. Now he was just an aging politician, sweat dripping under the African sun. Asante's reply was devastating. "Consequences? What will you do, tweet us to death? Sue Ghana in a New York court? You no longer have power over us. You are history, Mr. Trump. Past history." Trump's face twisted with anger and humiliation. His threats collapsed into silence. Marcus Sullivan leaned in. "Sir, we're leaving now." Still desperate, Trump lurched toward Mensa. "You little soldier. I'll ruin you. I'll have you expelled." Before he could finish, General Owe stepped forward, a granite wall of authority. "Not one more step toward my officer. You have crossed every line. Your visit is over. Leave our soil." A dozen Ghanaian soldiers approached, not threatening but firm. Trump looked around. His team's faces were grim with shame. Officials watched with open contempt. Cameras rolled, capturing every second. For once, Donald Trump had no escape. His shoulders sagged. His arrogance dissolved. "This isn't over," he muttered, though the words were empty. Asante stepped closer, voice heavy with sorrow. "It ended the moment you thought you could treat Africa like a servant. You could have been a respected guest. You could have built bridges. But you chose arrogance, and arrogance only leads to loneliness." Trump had no reply. At last, Mensa spoke again, calm but unyielding. "I do not salute you because a salute honors true authority. Authority earned through respect. You are not my superior. But if one day you come to Africa with humility instead of arrogance, with respect instead of contempt, then perhaps we can meet as equals, and shake hands as free men." Defeated, Trump turned and walked toward his plane. His entourage followed in silence, faces dark with humiliation. The man who once promised to make America great had turned himself into a global spectacle. At the foot of the jet, he looked back, perhaps hoping to see submission. Instead, he saw Mensa standing tall, Ghana's flag billowing behind him, Asante and General Owe at his side, and a nation unbowed. The plane doors shut with a final thud. Engines roared, and the jet lifted into the gray sky, carrying away the remnants of arrogance that had lingered too long. On the tarmac, Ghana's leaders stood firm until the plane vanished on the horizon. Then Asante placed a hand on Mensa's shoulder. "Captain, today you made history. All of Ghana felt proud. Today all of Africa felt proud." Mensa finally smiled. It was small, almost imperceptible, but heavy with meaning. "I only did my duty, Mr. Minister, to defend the honor of my country." What followed Trump's departure spread like a tidal wave across the globe. Videos of the encounter went viral. International media devoted entire pages to the story. CNN declared, "The day Africa said no, Trump's diplomatic humiliation in Ghana." BBC wrote, "A Ghanaian soldier becomes symbol of African dignity." Le Monde published, "The Africa that no longer kneels." But it was Africa's own press that captured the moment best. Ghana's Daily Graphic splashed Mensa's photo across its front page. "Our hero." Nigeria's The Nation wrote, "The soldier who spoke for a continent, from Lagos to Nairobi, from Cairo to Johannesburg." People celebrated in the streets. Students organized rallies. Songs and chants echoed, "Mensa, Ghana's hero. United Africa, dignified Africa. No more submission." In Accra, Independence Square overflowed with thousands, just as it had in 1957 when Nkrumah declared freedom. Signs bore Mensa's image and Ghana's flag. The people's voice was clear. Dignity had returned. In Washington, the administration scrambled. The president issued a statement distancing America from Trump's remarks. The opinions expressed do not represent the official position of the United States. We reaffirm respect for Ghana and for all of Africa as equal partners. Across Congress, leaders condemned Trump. Senator Elizabeth Warren declared, "He humiliated America before the world. His conduct in Ghana is inexcusable." Europe joined in chorus. Macron, "Mutual respect is the foundation of international relations." Germany's chancellor, "Any attempt to belittle Africa is unacceptable." Meanwhile, Kojo Mensah's life transformed. Overnight, an unknown soldier became a global figure. Universities offered honorary doctorates, human rights groups sought him as an ambassador, publishers begged for books. But he refused anything that meant leaving the Ghanaian army. "I am a soldier of Ghana. That is my pride," he told the BBC. "I seek no fame or money. I only defended my uniform and my country." Any Ghanaian soldier would have done the same. Still, he accepted some invitations. At Oxford, he spoke of dignity and peaceful resistance, greeted by standing ovations. At Harvard, he lectured on Africa beyond mental colonialism, to an overflowing hall. At the UN, his words on respect in international relations were translated into 30 languages. For Trump, the fallout was disastrous. His already fragile international image collapsed. Attempts to justify himself only deepened the damage. Even Fox News pressed him. "Mr. Trump, don't Ghanaian officials deserve respect too?" His stumbling reply further eroded his standing. In America, rallies faced protesters waving Mensah's photo and chanting, "Learn from Ghana." Politicians weaponized the Ghana incident in every debate. Months later, Ghana declared a new holiday, National Dignity Day. Independence Square unveiled Mensah's statue with a plaque. "To all who refuse to bow before arrogance." The shockwaves spread across Africa. Leaders took bolder stances in negotiations, no longer yielding to Western pressure. Nigeria rejected an unfair trade deal. Kenya expelled a patronizing ambassador. South Africa declared Africa would never again negotiate from inferiority. Economists named it the Mensah effect, Africa's newfound confidence reshaping global trade. China adjusted its diplomacy. Europe reconsidered its approach, but Mensah himself remained humble. Back at the barracks in Accra, he returned to his family. His wife, Akosua, told him, "I'm proud of you, Kojo, but you've challenged powerful men." "I haven't challenged anyone," he replied gently. "I only stood with dignity. That is duty." To his children, who basked in his fame at school, he taught humility. "I'm no hero. A true hero is one who does good every day, even when unseen." Across the world, his stand became a case study, a single act of dignity reshaping the image of a continent. At Stanford, professors taught the Mensah moment. In Tokyo, scholars held a symposium on dignity and global politics. Historians later wrote that this was the turning point when Africa ceased to be seen as the dark continent and was recognized as an equal partner. Trump never recovered. His memoir, The Art of Revenge, flopped, dismissed as bitter ramblings of a man who never learned the difference between power and respect. Mensah, meanwhile, rose through the ranks, a major colonel, then general by the age of 40. At his promotion ceremony, his words echoed across the world. 10 years ago, a powerful man came here expecting us to bow. We did not out of disrespect, but because dignity is not negotiable. And we learned that no matter how powerful, no one can humiliate you if you stay true to your principles. With dignity, you are invincible. He paused, looking at Ghana's flag. Africa has learned that lesson. We are not a continent begging for permission. We are partners. We are equals. We are worthy. In the streets of Africa, people listened and cheered. In Europe and America, leaders reflected. And far away, an aging Trump whispered almost regretfully, "I should have shown respect." That day, Accra's skies were bright and clear. Freedom could be felt in the air. Pride. Dignity. At the foot of Mensah's statue in Independence Square, words shone in the sunlight. In the darkest moments, when all seems lost, the dignity of a single man can light the flame that illuminates all humanity. Africa had spoken. The world would never be the same.